Good evening, all of you. Thank you so much for joining in again. And this is lovely Saturday evening, and we are back once again with another session on medical cannabis. And today the session is very, very special, just for two reasons. One, we have one of the leading, I will say, professional from straight away from US, Dr. Hemant Kumar Bid. He is having a vast experience. Sumit will introduce him in a while. But as per my knowledge and the interaction I had with him, so he is having a very exhaustive knowledge on cannabis, on various aspects, on multiple aspects. And we are very much lucky to have him on board. We, although, had some sessions and some talks with him on Clubhouse app, but first time he is live on our platform, that is indianvedyas.com. And right now, in next an hour, thousands of people will watch him live, and after that also we will propagate this video to all the fraternity and the people in our connections and networks, because it will remain on our channels and our social media platforms. So we are very much lucky and privileged to have you, Dr. Hemant, on our session today, and we'll definitely looking forward to get some more information and some tips from your exhaustive knowledge which you possess. And the second reason for today's webinar again is Sumit. The organization is Happyhim, and the way these people are promoting medical cannabis, the ethics, the standard, the mindset, which we respect a lot, and we means the medical fraternity, the Ayurveda doctors fraternity, which our platform represent, that is indianvedyas.com. And one feedback for you, Sumit, you are keep on interacting with many doctors, and till now everybody is like praising your organization and you also,
Thank you.
in terms of your quality, in terms of your communication, in terms of your way of handling the doctor network. I think that is appreciated, and that is the requirement that people like you, founders like you, who respect one of the very important stakeholders, that is Ayurveda doctors, in this entire ecosystem of medical cannabis. I think this is very important, because a prescription drug should be promoted like this only, which is the need of hour. So again, congratulations and appreciation to your
Thank you,
approach
sir.
and effort and mindset, and we are very much privileged to have you as well in this session today. So without wasting much time, I think people are very much eager to listen, Dr. Hemant, and to you as well. So I would request you to quickly introduce yourself about your organization, and then maybe you can introduce Dr. Hemant and hand over the session to him as well.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
So thank you very much, Dr. Piyush. And obviously, one of the key and the major respect that we have for you is that you have allowed us to rightfully, channel the information across the entire fraternity. So myself, my name is Sumit Sinha. I'm founder of Happyhim. We are focused on cannabis leaf medicines. Over the last couple of months, Dr. Piyush and I have done a lot of webinars focused on medicinal values and medicinal use cases of cannabis as a whole. We have spoken about on pain, insomnia, bacterial infections. Now, I believe over a period of time, as my interaction with the community and the fraternity grew, I felt that it is very important that we need to kind of take a step back and understand the entire plant in a wholesome. Uh, all we have known is probably only CBD so far, and which is not actually the only therapeutic compound present in the cannabis plant. The range of therapeutic compounds is amazing. I believe still people are doing researches and finding it out. And the importance to understand the plant. It's what what are we actually prescribing? What are the chemicals present into it? The phytochemicals, how they react with the body, what all therapeutic properties they possess is very important for not just for the doctors as well as patients, those who are or will be consuming it, because they should know what actually is coming inside my body. That is very important awareness around the plant for both for doctors for prescribing it and for obviously the patients, those who are going to consume it. And it has always been our core focus that we always create and generate rightful information around the plant so that the adoption is correct. The approach that the doctors can take is very defined and knowledgeful. And obviously, this brings us to our current session, which we are doing today. And I'm so glad and so happy that Dr. Hemant Bed is joining us from US. He's someone who has a very extensive research experiences, especially focused on cannabis. He has MS. He has sorry, my phone. Sorry. He is someone who is deeply educated in the same space. He has masters in pharmacology from Ohio State University. He has PhD in medical biochemistry. He has published more than 80 journals. That's amazing number. Someone who has done so much amount of research in the space. He has been actively researching, or he's a researcher for the last 20 years. Along with his entire distinguished education and expertise. He is also an adjunct professor at Cleveland School of Cannabis, where he teaches the entire range of, from the cultivation of cannabis to the medicinal aspects of the cannabinoids, to patient navigation, to endocannabinoid system, and obviously the entire, rightful dispensing as well. So I believe, when we kind of hand over the session to Dr. Piyush, we are going to hand over the entire the array of information that's going to flow is mammoth. So I will request everyone, if you have tuned in, this is going to be first of its own kind of a session. Let me be very honest with you, because these informations are not at all widely available. You have to actually find those researchers, those who are very few in numbers, those who can actually talk about the plant so exhaustive, so deep, so deep rooted information. And if you are tuned in, do not leave this this webinar. Do call other doctors or share this, because it's going to be very, very mind opening, or a knowledgeful session. So I hand over to you, Dr. Hemant. Kindly continue, and thank you so much for taking out time to do this for us, for everyone in the medical fraternity, and obviously those who are very much aligned towards the rightful acceptance of the plant. So please carry on, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Sumit. Thank you, Piyush, for the kind introduction. It's a pleasure, and it's a great opportunity for me to be here. So today that we are going to talk about different cannabinoids, endocannabinoid system. And as Sumit mentioned that, this is the field that which is growing field, especially the country like India, that where we are kind of trying to learn that the advancement of the science, which is already happened in many different countries. And it's a great opportunity for all of us to learn that. So a little bit about myself, that, I'm right now running a testing laboratory, cannabis testing laboratory in Columbus, Ohio, which is one of the very critical field, because as Sumit mentioned, that, if we are treating this plant using as a medicine, then we have to give the respect to the plant, and we have to test for all the different contaminants, either it is mycotoxin, either it is heavy metals, either it is pesticides, either it is or what kind of different cannabinoids are present there, what kind of different terpenes are present there. Because understanding the whole profile is basically giving us, the clinicians, to understand the purity and potency of the compounds, which is very important. Because, and it's most of the time that people ask about that, why we need to have to know about different cannabinoids, why we need to know about so many different kind of products in the system, right? Because if it is a plant, and we can take it in any one way, but the question is that, if we are taking and we are using this plant as a medicine, the most important thing is that more and more different tools we have in our hands as a clinicians, we will be able to actually treat the patients, because everybody is different, human body is different, every genetics is different, every disease is different. So that means there are so many different angles that we need to treat the patients. Every patient is actually responding the drug in a different ways. Everybody's metabolic rate is different, everybody's genetics is different. And now slowly the research is going that far away, that we are now knowing more and more about that, how cannabinoids made based medicine is trying to affect our liver metabolizing enzymes, how they are affecting different drugs, either it is a blood thinners or either hormonal therapy like tamoxifen. And again, that these are the very critical information for the treatment of the patients, because if we know these things, that means we have more and more information about that how this drug is interacting with these existing therapies. That means we will be able to provide more better actually treatment profile to those patients also. So this is kind of like we are going to talk about that, like how the plant is basically producing all those things, how different kind of cannabinoids are present there, what is the difference between endocannabinoids and phytocannabinoids, what kind of different cannabinoids are present there, how they interact with the human body. I think it's the most important thing that we need to understand, that how these molecules are interacting with our body and how we are getting medically benefited. Because I think it is a very crucial piece of information which clinicians as well as the patients need to know about, because then there is a more respect about the plant and we can give the more value about the medical utility of these plants. So I will start from there. And before I start, I will just disclose I have no financial disclosure with this presentation. Thank you for Piyush and Sumit to giving the opportunity to talk and share about this growing field and little bit knowledge, because time is crunch and we have a lot of things to cover. So let's start with that. So first thing is that, like when we talk about that, like cannabinoids, right? So the question first come in our mind, that when we are talking about the cannabinoids, so basically cannabinoids word is coming from cannabis, and cannabis plants actually we all know that, there are a lot of different terminology about this plant. Either it is a weed, it is a marijuana, it is a bhang, so many bong. It's kind of worldwide, like we can cover, because we are not the only one country, either it is India or either in US or Canada, that which are basically pushing this amazing molecule or amazing drug and amazing opportunity for the therapeutic aspect. We all globally actually pushing together. So basically what happened that, like right now that where India is, I think that it is a great opportunity for India to take the advantage of all the scientific advancement which has already happened worldwide and utilize in a better way, because India's the geographical variation and the trees and species of the marijuana is amazing. The genetics is amazing, that plants are producing the amazing cannabinoids. So why not, it's a time to take the advantage of that for sure. But on the other hand, that when we talk about the taking the advantage of that, we can only take the advantage of this plant until unless we can give the respect to the plant and understand that how valuable the plant is and what are the different medical applicability is there. So if we talk about the cannabinoids, so cannabinoids are basically a group of compound which is coming from many different ways, right? So one we call endocannabinoids. So endo means, like these endocannabinoids are basically our body produce these cannabinoids. So there are two specific endocannabinoids, which is anandamide and 2-AG. These are the two molecules which are similar to our neurotransmitter. They work like a neurotransmitters. So these two molecules are basically part of our endocannabinoid system, which we are going to talk about in the next slide. So this is two important things that to remember, that endocannabinoids are basically inside our body. Now, very easy to remember the phytocannabinoids, because the alphabet P, which is start from phytocannabinoids start from P and plants start from P. So phytocannabinoids are basically plant derived the cannabinoids. That's why we call phyto. And these are basically sitting in one of the small globule, like a globule round shaped actually the molecules which is sitting on the flower of the tree, which is called trichomes. And these trichomes have all different kind of cannabinoids. On the other hand, these cannabinoids are also present in the leaves also, which India is using right now. And so when we talk about the phytocannabinoids, people always talk about that, like, okay, when we are talking about the phytocannabinoids, we know CBD, we know THC. But now everybody need to understand that, like we right now, that research is already so far up that, like we are already explore and discovered more than 200 phytocannabinoids in our books, that, like we know about the name, we know about that they are present there, right? But then the question is that then why we don't know about them? Why we only know about CBD and THC? Because plant has the ability to produce CBD and THC a lot. So that means we don't need to do anything. We extract that CBD and THC. We have a lot of molecules in hand and we can play around. And that's why there's an enormous amount of information there out in the literature, which is CBD and THC. But the other ones that, like we are slowly getting there. And how we are getting there? Because of the advanced technologies. Because now we need to understand that Human Genome Project is already cracked down long time ago. and now it's the time for the cannabis genome product, which is already explored. So cannabis genome is already we crack out. So that means we know every sequence, that what sequence is producing what kind of cannabinoids, which is a great tool for us to make the hybrid plants. And people are, all the scientists around the world, they are using these ones with the use of a very sophisticated gene editing technology, which is called CRISPR-Cas technology. And then when they use the CRISPR-Cas technology, they can actually overexpress a specific sequence, which can make the CBG, CBC, THCV, any cannabinoids you can take. And so that we can have an ample amount to do the research to understand that why these cannabinoids are there. But of course, that nature has a reason to put all the phytocannabinoids together, because we are going to talk about why. But then this is the phytocannabinoids we talk about. And then another part is synthetic cannabinoids. Of course, that, like there are a lot of different cannabinoids there, we can utilize this. But if we have something synthetic cannabinoids, which is laboratory derived, it will help us to do a lot of research, because it's giving a plant material, the compound, to do a lot of research in the animals with the different cell lines, etc. But along with that, like we can use a lot of clinical trials also. Dronabinol and nabinol, this is one of the most popular and two synthetic cannabinoids which is already approved from the FDA. So this is the three categories of the cannabinoids we were talking about. Let's talk about that, like what is basically the endocannabinoids, and like how it works. So basically we talk about that endocannabinoid system. That means it is inside our body, and it has two parts. One is that receptor, and one is the molecule. So it's a very simple actually phenomena, because endocannabinoid system is one of our system in our body. Like our body has a lot of systems: respiratory system, inflammatory system, immune system, digestive system, reproductive system. So same thing, endocannabinoid system is one of the team player in our body, which is basically synergistic play and work with all our system very well to maintain the homeostasis in our body. So that's amazing that this system is how much playing an important role to maintain the homeostasis, right? So then the question is that how this system maintain the homeostasis, what happened with this system, and how this system works in our body. Because it's important to understand this endocannabinoid system, because once we understand the endocannabinoid system, it is very easy to understand that how phytocannabinoids work in our system. So endocannabinoid system has two parts, as I mentioned. One is the lock and one is the key. So the lock is basically that the two different cannabinoids, which is anandamide and 2-AG, which are similar to our neurotransmitters. And basically the receptors, which is basically their work as a lock, and these two actually molecule, which is key. So they bind together and they start actually facilitating the reaction in our body to regulate all different kind of functions. So now there are two endocannabinoids in our body, but along with that, we have so many different receptors. Two receptors everybody knows, which is CB1 and CB2. But along with that, so far research is coming far like advanced, and we know about a lot of other receptors which is also comes under the umbrella of this endocannabinoid system, which is GPR system, which is a GPR family receptor, and then TRVP receptors, PPR gamma receptors, ion channels, etc. So these receptors also synergistically work with CB1 and CB2 and many other receptors in our body. And that's the important thing that we need to understand, because human body is very complex. And now this molecule and the receptors, when they bind, we need a lot of different enzymes to activate and facilitate the reaction, right? Because it's a simple chemistry that when some reaction is going on, you need some enzymes to activate the reactions. So these are the enzyme transporters, which is FAH, MAGL, etc. That these are all the different transporters which actually facilitate the process of endocannabinoid system. So now what happened, that if anything happen in our body, and body thinks that, so one we need to understand that this anandamide and 2-AG is not continuously producing in our body. They produce when we need them. That means if body is under stress, body is under anxiety, and body wanted to regulate those things, so they release the endocannabinoid system, right? So that they can actually regulate and maintain the homeostasis and reduce your stress level, reduce your anxiety, or any other kind of disease anomaly. Then if this is the case, then very important question comes in our mind that, okay, we have endocannabinoid system, we have endocannabinoids, we have receptors, then why we need phytocannabinoids, right? Because endocannabinoids are already there and they are doing their job. But the important thing is that they have their limit, because they are interacting with the many different systems in our body. So what happens that if they have their limit, so then if body is going to produce a lot of different endocannabinoids, so it will be chaos in our body. So that means we need some external help. And that external help is basically a phytocannabinoid system. That means these phytocannabinoids are going to interact. These phytocannabinoids are basically molecules like anandamide and 2-AG, and they are going to actually interact with all these receptors, either it is CB1 receptor, GRP, 5518 receptor, TRVP, or PPR receptors, and doing the similar kind of action what endocannabinoids are doing. But the benefit is that we can actually facilitate this process however we wanted to, how much we wanted to. So okay, let's see about that. That like okay, what is the importance of this? A whole processes and all the endocannabinoids. Because one of the most important thing that what we need to understand, the CB1, CB2, and all the receptors are basically present in the all different organs. Either it is brain, either it is our central nervous system, or either it is a peripheral nervous system. Any kind of organs. What is giving us the indication and knowledge? One of the biggest and very critical information what it is giving us, that if these receptors are present in the different function in the different organs in our body, that means they are playing a very important role to maintain our physiological function of that specific organ, which is very important. Because if something happens, for example, let's say that like we are talking about our circulatory system or our maybe digestive system, CB1, CB2 receptors are there. Something happened, we have a maybe like stomach issues, we have inflammatory bowel disease, we have irritable bowel syndrome. That means that receptors could be a very critical target for treating those disease. And that's why this is very important. And you can see in this slide that those ECS system, endocannabinoid systems, are important for the neurogenesis, cognitive behaviors, motivation, mood, and lipid metabolism, appetite, inflammation, you name it. So that's why that this field is evolving in such a big way that we are utilizing these compounds in many different disease subset. Either it is a neurological disorders, either it is a cancer, any kind of cancer you talk about. So now this is a very important slide. The reason being that I mentioned that this is a very important slide, because so far that there are a lot of clinical trials based on the different phytocannabinoids, but it is hard to know, because very few people know that like that using these different enzymatic systems to facilitate the endocannabinoid system. The clinical trials a long time ago is already done in worldwide, either it is Belgium, Australia, France, UK. You can see here that they are using that MAGL inhibitor, which is one of the facilitator, FAH inhibitor, which is basically one of the enzyme which actually degrade the one of the endocannabinoid, which is anandamide. And when the patient is taking the CBD, it actually block this enzyme to not to chew the anandamide, so that anandamide can stay in the synapse longer. So there's a lot of benefit about that. So this is the slide just to tell that how far we come and how much the research is already advanced about that there are a lot of clinical trials is already done. And then we are talking about the phytocannabinoids, right? So we talk about that phytocannabinoids are coming from the plant. But the good thing is that we need to understand that these phytocannabinoids are the cannabinoids which is coming from the plant. But it is actually, we can extract these phytocannabinoids from many different plants, not only in cannabis. But then question is that like why we are only talking about the cannabis plant, why we are not talking about on utilizing the different kind of plant material or different resources also, so that like we don't need to worry about the regulation policies, etc. The critical part is, and the beauty of the cannabis plant is, because this plant contain a lot of more than 100 and 200 different phytocannabinoids, and which is very very critical for the medical aspect, which we are going to talk about in the next slide. Because one compound, like we talk about CBD itself, is so much diverse and has so much medical utility. Then you can imagine that if we combine many different kind of cannabinoids, then what they can do. And that's the specific thing that we talk about, entourage effect. Because there are three kind of different treatment profile and different kind of products that we sell. One is that isolate, and India is not there yet, but we are moving in the right direction. And definitely that like there are products that we are going to start giving to the patients because like I said that if we have as a clinician different kind of products, then it is giving us the flexibility to treat a broad range of patients. So now the question is that what is isolate, what is broad spectrum, and what is the full spectrum. So this is the three different terminology we are going to talk about for the treatment perspective about the phytocannabinoids. But one thing is very important to understand, that yes, these cannabinoids can extracted from many different other plants you can see, but cannabis itself actually hold a huge number of cannabinoids, and they have a tendency to work together very well. So how they can work together, right? So let's see that, next slide here. Yes. So this is a very, very critical side for medical aspect, because when any clinicians is going to treat, or any patient going to start their treatment, one thing need to understand, that which is a magic word, is go slow, and low and slow. The reason being that we talk about low and slow, because everybody's system is different. Everybody is going to respond with cannabinoid very differently. First thing is that we don't want any uh, bad effect with the plant, with the patient. And the second thing is that human body is very unique. Sometimes what happen, that your system need to be little bit pushed to take care of that disease. You don't need a lot of, let's say that, like a patient need only 2 milligram of cannabinoids. And if I think that, okay, I'm going to give like 10 milligram to start, then he is going to lose that window where basically his body can basically get better with a low dose. So why not we can start with low dose? The beauty of this treatment is that the moment you start with a low and slow, your body is going to actually accommodate this plant very well, first thing, and then get used to with that. And there are a lot of different factors which play very important role. Either the patient is a first time user, patient is a multiple time user, there are a lot of different factors go with that. But low and slow is the best way to move on. And then after that, like if you are seeing a little bit effect, you can talk with your clinicians, you can keep your journal so that you can write everything, which is very, very important to talk with your clinicians. And then after that, like for the clinician perspective, for the dispensary perspective, it is important that what we can give it to the patient. So if we have a different options, for example, in the slide you can see the isolate, broad spectrum, and full spectrum. Isolate means any cannabinoids which is only present in that treatment, and the broad spectrum, that means we don't have the THC. So CBD and THC are the two specific molecules we always talk about. CBD is a non-psychoactive part, and THC is a psychoactive part. People get scared from THC because it has a psychoactive part, but I wanted to tell here, because I give a lot of presentations on medical benefit, especially on THC, that THC is not a bad guy. It's a very, very useful compound. And basically that, what happened, that CBD and THC, they both are very good team player. So THC has a very unique properties, and its psychoactive activity actually taking care of by CBD. So basically, when we combine this 1-to-1 ratio, that means basically THC is going to do better with CBD. Along with that, CBD actually help THC to reduce its psychoactive activity. So it's an amazing combination that what we see. So when patients see that, and if they don't have the knowledge, then they get scared that, like, okay, there's the THC, what should I do? Should I go forward? Should I not go forward, right? And then there's the full spectrum, which is all the cannabinoids along with THC. So, but on the other hand, that there are a lot of reports are there that multiple disease, multiple patients, some patients even have anxiety, and they actually respond with isolates very well. They respond with broad spectrum very well. So it depends upon that, like what is patient is coming from, what kind of current medication they have, and what should we give it to them. They do they have a already a prior experience? What is their metabolic rate? Because there are a lot of different kind of, like products are there, oils are there, tinctures are there. There are a lot of patches which are very good for neuropathic pains also. So you have to know that, like what's going on with the patients in detail. But on the other hand, one of the beauty of this product is, and this compounds is, in the modern medicine, when we start, let's say we start paracetamol or Tylenol, etc. So once you take it, and then it's not working one tablet, then you have to take it two tablet. It's not working, you have to take four tablets. So you have to increase the dose. But cannabis is like a very unique. It has a biphasic property. That means in a low dose, it could be served in a very different way, and in a high dose it is served in a very different way in a different patients. So that's why that it is very important to understand that low and slow is the key to success to treat the patients, and understanding the patient, what patient is looking for, what have the patient the experience, and what kind of existing drug patient has it. It's very, very important to treat the patients in that way. Along with that, that what kind of different products you have in the hand that you can talk about, right? And along with that, that there are a lot of research papers are there where when you use the isolate and broad spectrum, their combination of the tinctures are very effective, and we are going to talk about that. But I wanted to just mention about the biphasic effect. I wanted to mention about different kind of, like product category which is in the market. I wanted to talk about that how we are going to approach the patient with the treatment. Along with that, that I talk about just now, that it is very important to understand that, like why cannabis plant is we choose for different cannabinoids, especially phytocannabinoids, because this plant has an enormous amount of different phytocannabinoids that we talk about, more than 200. And but there are now research is more and more growing that we every day we know a new cannabinoid, right? So the important thing is that isolate is very unique group. A broad spectrum is a very unique group. Full spectrum is very unique group. And we always try to move from the go like first, like let's try the isolate and then after that broad spectrum. But again, that it is all depends upon that what stage and patient is coming from. If we talk about the cancer patients, and if cancer patient is coming with a late stage, that means he is not coming to treat his cancer because it is already metastasizing in the whole our body, and cannabis is not going to protect that. But cannabis can help the patients to reduce their anxiety and their depression, which will help patients to live a better life. Patient is going through the lot of chemotherapy which kills the appetite of the patient. That means that cannabinoids can help to induce the appetite and basically regulate the cancer cachexia and anorexia, which is amazing because like it's very hard to do that. And then after that, like of course it has anti-cancer properties, and along with that, that the patient has a lot of pain, so which can actually regulate the pain also. So now this is the important part that we talk about, that phytocannabinoids and entourage effect. Why we are talking about? Because one of the critical thing that whole world is facing right now is COVID-19. There are a lot of research already done, and there are a lot of papers already published that what is that the mechanism of cannabinoids interact with COVID-19. And there are papers that which already claimed that based on the laboratory research, that when you treat with different cannabinoids, it's based on the human studies, also in the observational studies they found that it can reduce the pro-inflammatory cytokines in the human body. It can also reduce the anxiety and stress of the COVID-19 patients. But one of the most intriguing the exciting study just now published, which is basically the two different cannabinoids you can see here, the CBDA and CBGA. So basically, when we talk about CBDA and CBGA, so you can see here all the active cannabinoids are here. So that's kind of make us confused that what is this A about. So here you can see that like different natural cannabinoid, THCA, CBDA. So basically, A is the acidic form of these cannabinoids. So which is very, very important to understand that what it A means and what is happening. So first we talk about that like okay, these two cannabinoids, which is CBDA and CBGA, basically the study published that it is actually stopping the virus to enter in the body. That's an amazing study that which we came up with. And definitely we don't know that because it is changing the spike proteins which is helping the virus to get into that, and there are two variants that which is very, very effective for. So we need definitely more studies, but it is very, very encouraging study to see that, along with all the research studies which has been published to showing that cannabis basically reduce the oxidation reaction oxygen species, reduce the pro-inflammatory cytokines also, along with in the COVID patients, to reduce the lung inflammation, and then actually manage their depression and anxiety also, which is a really, really encouraging data. Now the question is that most of the cannabinoids we found is waiting in the plant, we will see in the acidic form, which is THCA, THCBA, CNBA, and etc. And one of the most important thing that we need to understand is that when we process these cannabinoids, when we extract this and we process this process actually involve a very critical chemical reaction which is called decarboxylation. And this decarboxylation actually what it does, that it is basically take out the CO2 molecule from this acidic form and make it actually an active form of THC. So which is basically that going to be bioavailable. So it's a very, very unique actually process, and that's why and why we need to understand that, because we need to understand that for a lot of reasons. For example, I'm in a testing facility. I'm trying to use a very sophisticated techniques. I use GCMS, I use LCMS, I use HPLC. So if you think about GCMS, it's a gas chromatography. That means gas produce a lot of heat. So if this gas produce a lot of heat, that means maybe the product I'm testing, that this gas will give the heat and the product is going to change from TSCA to TSC, and my test results will not able to actually give that what is the percentage of TSCA there. So those are the important things we need to understand. Then on the other critical part is that there are a lot of actually in future, there are a lot of like extraction manufacturing properties, the facilities in India, they are going to actually send their product to the dispensaries, and product has to actually go through the road for a long time, and where a lot of heat is generating. So that means people need to understand and aware that they need to keep the products in a cool place, so that they cannot push that reaction, so that like they can give the product, that the important product that what people are looking for, rather than that like what is the certificate of analysis we are providing, which is not basically reaching to the patients in the exactly way, and which is basically like it's not a good way to go that. So now the question is that like when we talk about the certificate of analysis, it is very, very important factor that which we need to talk about, because certificate of analysis of the each product is giving you the information of the purity and potency of the product, and every consumer and every clinicians need to understand about that, because that will give you the tool to give the basically your confidence on the product. And it is very important to like regulate that part also when we are talking about the medical cannabis. So now the important part is that like when we talk about the plant, right? So this plant has a lot of biosynthesis pathways which actually produce a many different kind of cannabinoids. But it's not only produce the cannabinoids, this is plant also produce a lot of terpenes also, and which is one of the most important thing that we know, which is basically like we are going to talk about. Because when we talk about the terpenes, so like we are going to talk about the terpenes a little bit later. First we are going to talk about a little bit very quick about CBD and THC. So CBD is one of the magical compound, non psychoactive, that whole world is basically knowing that how important it is. But I always actually appreciate CBD or any cannabinoids, because this is one of the best actually molecules which has the preventive as well as therapeutic applications. So that means if you're taking it for without any reason also, it is going to nurture your nerve cells, it is going to nurture your bone cells, and it is good for your body, because the endocannabinoid system is involved in so many different physiological functions. So CBD's health benefit is like either anti-anxiety, depression. And why we are saying that these are health benefit? Because the CB1 and CB2 receptors are basically present in our brain, in the stomach and bones and heart, intestine and eyes. So that means CBD molecules are going to bind with the CB1 and CB2 and facilitate that reaction, and that's why it is so important for the appetite control or strengthening the bone strength, or etc. On the other hand, that what we talk about, that like TSC, so about CBD, that it is very important for everyone to know that FDA, Food and Drug Administration, that they approved the first CBD product, which is the natural cannabis oil, which is Epidiolex, and it is basically for the epilepsy less than 2 years of the kids. And one of the girl, her name is Charlotte Fiji, and one of the neurophysicians, his name is Dr. Sanjay Gupta, who was one of the leading forefront to actually push the Epidiolex to like FDA approved. And it's amazing to see that Epidiolex is now approved. And there are other 3 synthetic cannabis products, which is Marinol, Syndros, and Drebinol, which is Ansisamet, which is Nevinol, is also approved, which helps the cancer patient to regulate their treatment associated nausea, vomiting, appetite, etc. Along with that like HIV related patients also, that get a lot of help with Marinol, Syndros, and Sisamet. So that is the important thing to understand, that FDA is pushing now, because we have so much data. We have so much clinical data right now, that FDA appreciate that to see this observational data, that people are getting benefited. It's time to push the clinical trial to approve the products, right? But the one of the unique thing here is that like still we we know that there are 3 important targets for this Epidiolex, which is natural cannabinoids, which worked with TRBP1, GPR55, and ENT1 receptors. but it interacts with so many different receptors. And you can see right now that in the right hand side, that how much different actions of CBD is basically why CBD is so much helpful, because CBD is a molecule, it's a versatile molecule which can interact with TRVP receptors, which interact with GRP receptors and different COX receptors, etc. So it's amazing molecules which can be a agonist or antagonist, and basically, like it can help to either it is a seizures, or either it is a anxiety, either it is a appetite, anything that you talk about. It's amazing that how CBD is so much helpful in many different ways. And the most important part to understand is that because CBD can interact with various different receptors in our body, and which is very fascinating. On the other hand, that when we talk about THC, again, that like a perception for THC is it's a bad guy, but I never say THC is a bad guy, because THC is very good for anxiety, for insomnia, low appetite, muscle spasticity, nausea, and pain. But on the other hand, that is all about the clinician to understand that how much percentage of the THC we are going to use, what is the ratio we are going to use with the THC and CBD. So either it is, like it depends upon if the somebody is coming with a high grade of cancer, then like of course that they have a pain, they have anxiety, they have low appetite, so high percentage of THC will definitely help. But these two compounds actually working synergistically very, very well, and actually it is a really amazing combination that we should appreciate that combination for sure. On the other hand, that when we talk about that CBGA, which is just now that the report came up that CBD and CBDA and CBGA actually combined and actually blocked the protein spike to enter the COVID-19 infection in the body. So one of the beautiful part of the CBG is we also call this CBG molecule is a stem cell molecule, stem cell cannabinoids. And why we say stem cell? Because if you think about the stem cell in our body, it's a very powerful cell. It can actually differentiate into any kind of cells. And you can see in right hand side, it is the blastocyst, neuron, epithelial cell, chondrocyte, any kind of cells, because it's a magical cell. That's why there are stem cell therapies are there. Same actually CBGA compound, which you can see here, it can convert into CBG, it can convert into THC, it can convert into CBD. So that's why that compound is really, really powerful compound. And people are trying to actually explore more that like if it is a stem cell cannabinoids, it's a stem cannabinoids, then it could be that it has a more powerful activity than CBD and THC, which we can leverage as they isolate also, right? And then after that, you can see that like what kind of different benefits of CBD. So far, that observational research is telling us that they can play a very important role in anti-anxiety, depressant, antioxidant, neuroprotective. But you have to always understand that when we talk about all these properties, it is because of this CB1 and CB2 receptors, which is present and expressed, which is a part of our endocannabinoid system. That's why we talk about this endocannabinoid system, because everything is correlated, because all these molecules are going to bind with the receptors, and that's why they are so valuable in anti-anxiety, or like bone growth, or anti-inflammatory, or like anti-prokinetic, etc. Now, the terpenes, they are basically also present in the cannabis plants, and they are aromatic compounds. And basically, not only in the cannabis plant, they are in a black chocolate and so many different other plants also. But cannabis plants have a high concentration on them, and they are primarily responsible for the smell, because terpenes and flavonoids are two things that which is kind of like present in all kind of vegetables, etc. Right? But they are very unique compounds. Basically, there are so many different kind of terpenes we know. More than 455 terpenes is already discovered, and these are some of them I can show you here, that which is kind of like myrcene, limonene, caryophyllene, lilanol, and pinene. But why, as a cannabis medical educator, you need to understand about these terpenes? One of the most important thing is that what are the effect of these terpenes, right? So the effect is that you can see that myrcene, it is analgesic, also anti-inflammatory. So how you can combine these terpenes with our existing cannabinoid treatment, which is very, very important, right? And then after that, there are some terpenes which are basically very, very critical for memory boosting. So if what happened that if as a clinician you don't know that which terpene boosts the memory, and you are just randomly maybe like, or like think about the other properties, and you combine the terpenes with the PTSD patients or the trauma patients, then it could be a disaster. because like we don't want that bad memories to come back. So which is very very important to understand about these terpenes. Along with that, it's very important to understand about that what kind of different terpenes can have a effect of wakeful effect, what kind of terpenes have a sedating effect, because maybe some people has a very bad basically dreams or very bad trauma, and they cannot sleep. So that means those terpenes which have a sedating effect, which will be helpful for a better sleep. On the other hand, maybe somebody has a depression anxiety, and they are just like sleeping, and they wanted to wake up and cheer up and then do a good things in their life. So that means their body needs some kind of combination of the terpenes which will be helpful for their wakefulness, which is limonene, pinene, caryophyllene, and any many other terpenes. So it is very hard to bring all the information in that small amount of time. But so far that what we discuss and what we talk about is a very very important information, not only the clinical prospect, what not only the medical fraternity, not only about to understand that like how we are going to treat the patient, but I strongly think that it is very important for the consumers also, that who are seeking for the alternative therapy for cannabis field, because it will give them the confidence and the faith on the plant, and then to understand the advancement of the research is very very important for all of us, because the field is changing dramatically, research is changing dramatically, the new data are coming every day. So we need to keep up on the advanced research, as well as we need to connect it with each other to understand and create a good medical practice as well as the database, so that we can help the patients many more different types and get the advantage of those countries where it is already very in an advanced phase, so that it can help us to follow that path and utilize our treasure and the very unique plant that which is sitting in India. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hemant. It was really very informative, very exhaustive. So much more actually we have learned today. Even I have personally learned a lot of things that I had a lesser idea about. I think Dr. Piyush has joined us. There will be a lot of questions. Even I have a lot of questions, but I guess we will park it for the end of the this session. So I'll hand over the session to Dr. Piyush. He's going to take on some more concepts. I guess understanding the plant and its phytocannabinoids, terpenes is very important to get an idea on what are we actually giving it to the patient. But again, how do we prescribe it, doses is also very critical. So I guess, Dr. Piyush, this is over to you. Please take the session forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Sumit. And first of all, uh, thank you, Dr. Hemant. It was a very informative talk and a very informative discussion from your end. As I can see, certain comments and certain like feedbacks which have we have started receiving now. So thank you again for this very informative talk, and I think we have already requested you to summarize and to uh, be in a like a quick few minute session. But yes, I think, Sumit, we need to have more detailed session with Dr. Hemant in future as well, so that we can have some session exclusively for each aspect. In fact, I was just seeing when he was explaining all the slides, so I think each slide or maybe two slides can create an entire session, and he's having that much of knowledge and information with him, that will be definitely very helpful for the Indian medical fraternity, and as well as the other people who are associated with this particular domain, that is medical cannabis. So I think it's good that your organization and you have taken this initiative to bring Dr. Hemant on board now, and we will have many more sessions with him, and it's good that his intention also is to just spread knowledge and just create awareness in a very scientific and technical way. So thank you again, Dr. Hemant. And now the quickly another part of this discussion today, this webinar, and I can see a couple of doctors are mentioning about the dosage and how to handle the adverse effects. There is one question, if any, comes during the treatment and all. So we will take all these questions later on, but some questions will be addressed in my talk and my discussion today, because The idea was to get the basic understanding about the plant, about the various ingredients, or I will say the active cannabinoids or the active ingredients of the plant from Dr. Hemant, as he is having much exhaustive experience on plant level. And although my personal experience, professional experience in this domain is not that much as compared to Dr. Hemant and other international experts, because they are doing this from last so many years there. And in India, it started around few years back only. So like the active, you can say, involvement and the active clinical practice is just around 3 to 4 years now as far as India is concerned. And we have seen now from last few months, in fact from the I will say after the first wave it picked up, and during the second wave it was uh, people who got interested, and now more and more doctors and more patients are also taking this up. And with some these recent discoveries, and we were very much aware, and we were very much like uh, raised this point in the second wave. I clearly remember when we did couple of webinars in April and in May, and after that also. In fact, India Today covered us in April. In that time also there was some story and some research that cannabis is helping in cytokine storm and all. So we were very clear, and we were seeing this difference. A very strange discovery we did in second wave during that Delta version of this virus. Then that few people who were taking, like clearly remember one case in a family. The lady, the wife, was taking already medical cannabis for her arthritis pain and other issues, and the husband was not, and both got affected with this Delta variant. And the husband was in fact having a bit lesser viral load as compared to wife, but the clinical symptoms were very much acute, and for husband it was very challenging to fight with the COVID as compared to the wife, where the viral load was also more, and we have seen that the damage was a bit there as well. But as compared to husband it was not that much. So you can say that already she was taking medical cannabis for her other element, and during that infection also she did not stop, and the Ayurveda treatment protocol was same for both. So I think that was one incident which I clearly remember, uh, because at that time there was no research. Till that time there was no research published about cannabis helping in specifically this virus. We know that cannabis is beneficial for superbugs, for certain infections. There was a study in US that for the superbugs and for those kind of infections, cannabis is effective. But we were not sure about this particular virus, which we have got from this clinical experience. And after that, we exhaustively prescribed to many patients, and we revealed that data that in our patients we have seen that they are getting um, clinically improved as far as cannabis administration in COVID cases are concerned. And this is now well established, and it's gradually picking up. So my request, first of all, prior to starting my this discussion, to all the doctors who are watching, I can see right now there is a very good number, around 375 right now. I can see on my screen are watching us live. So please start prescribing medical cannabis to all your patients. Specifically, right now, people are suffering from COVID, from various infections. Other elements are also there, but if you start adding this to the patients, it will definitely help them in healing. And we have seen the post COVID complications are also there, and it will help in that aspect as well. And we have already today also I prescribed to two patients, and we are seeing very good recovery. So that is very much required. Now there are some specific questions and some specific queries. I will not get that much in detail, but two dimensions, two aspects we want to discuss today. One is the dosage, which is a very common question, and many doctors are keep on asking us repeatedly. We already had a discussion in some webinars, but today let's have some specific and some detailed discussion. And I want to specifically mention Happyhim tincture, which we are already using again for this event. Specifically, as you all know, that we don't have any model in terms of commissions or in terms of promoting any product. So it's like we are also using as a clinic, which all your doctors will be using. So we don't have any vested interest in promoting them or advocating them. which is very much clear. And I think all of you know, because all of you are connected to us too, and we have connected you to various Ayurveda companies and medical cannabis companies in past as well, and all of you are doing business directly with them without a single amount of money. Indian Vadyas or our interest is there, which you all are aware. But yes, the 3000 mg 30 ml variant of Happyhim as a tincture which we are using is quite effective. First of all, congratulations again to you, Sumit, for bringing a very economical version of this tincture in India, which is a very price sensitive market. I know there are struggles with the raw material, with the costing and all, but still you people are managed and able to provide this kind of cost, which other companies are still struggling, and their costing and their pricing is a bit more as far as 3000 is concerned. I don't know how your people are doing, but this is one reason that many patients and many people are very comfortable in starting your tinctures rather than a 4000 5000 rupees bottle, because still in India predominantly the middle class or the upper middle class, I will say, they will think once spending, because we are doing other Ayurveda medicines also along with this. So I will have some case studies, or I will say some experiences about your tincture, which I will discuss in my talk today. And the second dimension is again, still the doctors are having some apprehensions about practicing medical cannabis. So we will try to address those as well today quickly. We know that we have not much time, but still I will try to skip certain slides, but I will be touching upon certain aspects today. So, Dr. Hemant very well mentioned about this plant. Now, let me clarify. See, as far as the species are concerned, we are all aware about there are sativa, indica, and hybrid, but in India, we never know, because the raw material procurement is from the excise department, and generally it's a cocktail of leaves they are taking. They also don't know, and nobody is having an idea that which kind of species they are getting as a raw material. As far as the current ecosystem of Indian raw material procurement is concerned, but we wish it will improve, and there has to be some standardization in terms of the species in the future coming policies of certain states. So, but yes, we all are aware that it is known as Vijaya or Bhang or hemp. Now, people several times ask, okay, what is the difference between cannabis or hemp? See, technically, I will say sometimes we can consider that as a synonym. There are specific species and specific plants which are being called as either hemp plant or a cannabis plant. I don't want to go that in discussion today, but just for a clinical knowledge or a clinician knowledge, you need to understand that whenever we are talking about the medical category, cannabis is a predominantly preferred word. And when we are talking about food right now in India, hemp seeds or hemp seed oil, and sometimes it's about fiber or industrial material and all, then hemp is the preferred word. We can use hemp as a medicine also, that is fine, but technically, full spectrum Vijaya oil is being used as a tincture in the leaves, so it's better to have like cannabis or that kind of words related to the medical practice. So, and in Ayurveda, Vijaya is the Sanskrit word, and Bhang we all know traditionally about this plant in India. So it is quite legal. The Narcotics Act does not include seeds and leaves. I need to clear that. We are clarifying this repeatedly, but today also again, please understand that Narcotics Act does not uh, consider leaves and seeds. So you all are free to practice medical cannabis as far as if you are a medical practitioner or a doctor. You can procure from a company and you can prescribe to your patients. But yes, you need to understand and you need to respect the ecosystem, that nobody is abusing or ensuring that it is medically being taken to the um correct form of patients, correct set of patients. So that is required as far as the clinical practitioner responsibilities is concerned. And the companies, like for example Happyhim, again, they are working exhaustively with the doctors, and they remain responsible in terms of maintaining that ecosystem, that they enroute their medicines and their tinctures through the doctor network. So that is also very much required, and it can have addictive potential. In fact, including many Ayurveda and allopathic medicines have the addictive potential. Opioid analgesics. The opioid addiction has reduced nearly to 40% in US and other countries. Dr. Hemant can give us a better view on that. But I will say, rather than addictive, it is having a de-addiction. In fact, but the problem is cannabis always get in news in India. The problem and the irony is people publish these kind of news more, that आज यहाँ पे इतना किलो गांजा पकड़ा गया, एंड आज यहाँ पर छापा हुआ, एंड that kind of news. But today morning I was very much pleased, and if after this session all of you can just quickly type cannabis in the news section in India, and you will see at least 8 to 10 news, various news groups from Times of India to Hindustan Times to Mint to Economics Times. Everybody is talking about this cannabis study. So first time I am seeing so much of positivity about this plant, at least in the news media platforms. They did a couple of times prior as well, but right now today I can see that in the news feed in India, uh, so many news platforms are talking about this study, and there is so much positivity. But generally we have these kind of negative news about this plant. So that is also very much now needs to be addressed, that yes, this plant and this herb has a very medical and positive use as well, and more research studies, global as well as local, are required for this particular plant to take forward. I think the plant dimensions has been very well explained and discovered by Dr. Hemant. So Schedule E, we all know that it is a prescription drug. We are supposed to only get it from a prescription. We are supposed to dispense it from with a prescription only. As we have mentioned that Vijaya leaves and seeds are not under NDPS Act. Registered Ayurveda doctor can prescribe, and other pathy doctors are also can prescribe, which is fine. But again, the training and the exposure should be there. There are Ayurveda classical as well as the proprietary medicines. As far as medical cannabis is concerned in our country, so we have classical as well as proprietary medicine. uh, like for example, the tinctures we are using generally are coming under the category of Ayurveda proprietary medicine. The classical medicines are like Trilokia Vijayavati, Kameshwar Modak, Bilwadi Churan, and many other, around 190 classical preparations we have. So, as I said, prescription is mandatory. Accountability and inventory management should be done. That is one requirement which I always suggest to all the doctors and all the practitioners, and to the companies also. Companies are doing very well on their end, but sometimes doctors are missing on that front. So, maybe if you can have a better accountability and inventory management. Although, as I said, it does not come under the purview of Narcotics Act, but still, if you are able to manage, it will be good for you. And in the Clinical Establishment Act, these days in India, to every clinic they want to maintain you the records of your patients, so that you need to understand, and accordingly you need to respect that law as well. So again, that ECS system and all has already been discussed, so I will be skipping these slides and I will be coming directly to the dosage part now. This is a very important slide, and I will like to spend much time on this slide because many doctors repeatedly asking us about the dosage and how to define or how to finalize the dosage. See, we need to understand there are various dosage forms available right now in India as far as medical cannabis is concerned, but predominantly the oral tinctures, the pills, capsules, topicals, all these are there. Then we have certain patches, and certain companies are also developing. We don't have right now the vape kind of method here, the flower aspect. So let's focus on two three dosage form. I will start with the tinctures. So the tinctures predominantly in India are sublingual, not in the form of vape or mouth spray right now in India, but oral or sublingual, I will say. And there is a difference between oral and sublingual. Sublingual means you are supposed to recommend patient that they need to hold the drops under their tongue maybe for 30 seconds to a minute, and then slowly it will be absorbed from the salivary gland. So that is known as sublingual. Uh, the tinctures which we are right now practicing are predominantly like that only in India, including Happyhim. I think Sumit, correct me if I'm wrong. It's a sublingual tincture, right? So So when we recommend the dosage, what we need to understand is, for example, the 300. Let me just give you the idea around Happyhim tincture. So it is a 3000 mg 30 ml bottle which you are getting. So now, although there are certain formulas which you can derive and you can work upon the dosage, but the problem with those formulas which I realized is most of them are based on either the CBD concentration. But in India, again, the problem is we have full spectrum and we can't have the isolates. And Dr. Hemant will also agree and maybe throw some light on this in his interaction after my talk. That, like, when we derive the dosage, so first of all, we are not clear right now the exact ratios as far as the CBD, THC, and other cannabinoids in the Indian products in the Indian medicines. So what we understand is we know the total, the cumulative extract percentage or the cumulative extract availability in a particular bottle. So what we generally do is, as per our clinical experience, we have derived some formulas and derived some directions which we can share with you guys. So as far as, and by the way, the problem, one more problem here is in India. Like for example, Happy M, they have this 3000 mg 30 ml, and sometimes I don't want to name any brand or any company here, but we have compared that maybe the 4500 or the more potency is also not that much potent as compared to their 3000 mg. There can be lack of standardization or lack of quality controls and all. So now maybe you can get confused. So it's not that every company have the same potency in there, the same mg if we compare. So that also we need to understand. So till that time, maybe we can have some company wise understandings, or maybe on law and average we can use. So what we do is, for example, again I come to Happy M tincture. So when we start, we see the body weight of a patient. Like for example, if somebody is around 50-60 kgs, and he or she is a first time user of medical cannabis, and if there is no history of any other strong sedatives, or like alcohol or smoking or that kind of stuff, we always start with a minimum dose, like say 4 to 6 drops in night time, 1.5 hour prior to their bedtime. Do not give exactly at the bedtime, because sometimes people, if we are giving them and they are they're just sleeping after that, sometimes the sleep disturbance can be there at that particular time when they are taking, and they are expecting sometimes after taking this we will get to sleep. It's not a sleeping pill or sleeping kind of medicine that will induce sleep within few minutes. It will take at least 1.5 hour of time. And we can't promote this as a sleeping medicine. It can give you a better sleep. It will definitely cure your insomnia. But it's wrong to position cannabis as a sleeping medicine, which, as I want to convey here as a clinician, it will definitely help you in the sleep and it will cure insomnia. It's a technically it's a medicine, but I don't want to promote it as a sleep inducing medicine, right? So we start it at a evening time, 1.5 hour prior to the bedtime, 4 to 6 drops, 50 to 60 kg person without any history of cannabis or any other addictive agent, it's fine. But yes, if somebody is having past history, you can check the current dosage or the past dosage they have taken of medical cannabis. If somebody is taking high quantity of nicotine or alcohol or any other addictive, maybe opioid analgesics, multiple sedatives, sometimes they are taking high dose of painkillers and all, you can escalate the dose to 8 to 10 drops also to start with. And then gradually you can, after a week, you can start their day dose also. Just have a 50% of the night dose. Like for example, if you started with 8 drops, you can start with 3 to 4 drops in the morning after a week, and then gradually you can plan that. So that is one basic formula which we are right now implementing. But yes, if we have special cases like acute pain, cancer cases, acute stages of dementia or degenerative disorders, some kind of seizures, some kind of uh, neuropathic pains, all these high grade of degenerations. So all these required a bit high dose, which is again maybe to start with 10 to 12 drops, and we have gone to 18 to 20 drops also in few cases with your tincture, Sumit. So That can be also some cases which we have seen are getting us better result in terms of managing the acute form of their indication. And if they are on several chemical based medicines or allopathic medicines, so and they want to reduce or they want to uh, like move away from those medicines, so in that phase also sometimes we need a bit high dose as well. So that is one basic ideology or basic maybe structure you all can start. And by the way, just simple, do not get confused, there's a simple thumb rule. Start with say 4 to 6 drops with any patient. The worst case scenario is they will say, okay doctor, not that much of effect. Okay, then you add 2 drops or 4 drops, and accordingly you can reach to a particular threshold. The day they start feeling a bit dizziness, that they start feeling a bit more sleepy, maybe you can accordingly adjust the dose. But do not resist your practice, do not inhibit yourself just because that you are not aware that much of about dose. You are stopping yourself to start medical cannabis practice. That I see in many doctors, that they stuck to this point that okay doctor sir, we don't know about the dosage, how we can start. If something will goes wrong with the patient with the incorrect dose and all, nothing will goes wrong, because it's not a medicine. If somebody will drink the entire bottle of 30 ml, they will not die. So although I'm not saying to drink the entire bottle, but this is the fact that they will not die. There can be some side effects, some serious side effects, but nobody will die, right? So please understand, this is a very safe medicine, and it will not cause any serious side effect, serious adverse event or anything to any patient if they do overdose, right? So it's just they feel a bit dizziness, or there can be dry mouth, there can be some kind of mild hallucinations, I will say, for first timers specifically, but not more than that. There can be certain side effects and there can be certain contraindications to certain category of patients. Like if somebody is on a pacemaker, or somebody is on having that kind of issues, the sinus rhythms, the irregular sinus rhythms, or irregular uh, uh, like ischemic heart disease or any other aspects are there, then we need to see that. If somebody is taking strong antidepressants, and they are the cases of acute depression or schizophrenia or those kind of aspects, then we need to be very cautious and accordingly we need to take it forward. But yes, in general you can start with this particular fundamental of dose, which is fine, and which is like clinically also we are seeing is very much uh, accepted. The topicals you can start with locally applying 5 to 10 ml on the local area part. In fact, sometimes what we have done is these concentrated tinctures. So we have added 10 to 12 drops or 15 drops to the carrier oils of Ayurveda, like Manarand oil, the Shmul oil, or many other oils, which all of you are aware. So we have added this concentrated tinctures drops into those oils, and we have applied to the patients, and they have given us a very good feedback in their pain management, in their neuropathic disorders, in their skin issues, certain kind of chronic eczemas, fungal infections, psoriasis, and many other issues. We have seen very good result along with the internal administration. The external application is also very useful, right? So I think this basic formula which you people can follow is around the dosage. Still what I will do is we will have much more oriented specific discussion about dosage in another session, and we can have a specific like inputs, and we want to be more interactive in the future sessions. So this is just the first eye opening session for all of you. So me, Dr. Hemant, and we can invite other speakers as well. So we want to have more interactions in the future sessions. We would like to listen from all of you. I have certain questions which we'll be discussing with our panel today, but still I request all of you just note down, just rewind this session. I can see more than 1 hour 13 minutes now for this session. We don't want to do it a very long session, so that all of you can quickly watch and see this session at any point of time. But rewind this session, see the entire session again, note down your queries, note down your questions, bring it to us. Let's have another session, let's have more interactions and more interactive session in future with all of you. and we can have that kind of session, so that all of you are aware. So what the idea is, to involve all of you. So Sumit, what you can do is, in the next session we always have 10 speaker slot in this software. So like for example, we can have 3 4 key speakers, and you can have 4 5 doctors, which you can already decide from your network of doctors which are working with you, that they can be the speakers also. It's like the keynote speakers are there, but they can be the contributors, I will say, not speakers in the session, in which they can contribute and they can come up with their queries or their issues or their challenges, which they can contribute as an active person who is speaking in the session. And that will help the other audience and the other people also to see as a more interactive session, rather than just we, you, me, or Dr. Hemant are talking. So that we can have in the forthcoming session, and it will also bring more doctors and more people to share their thought process with us, right? So that we need to understand. So for various indications also, we can have various dosage form, which we can always have in the forthcoming sessions. We can have disease wise sessions as well. So the reduction in opioid usage was there, and there were some studies. And in this one study which you can see in 2019, so it has been published that 53% reduced their opioids, and 94% reported improvement in quality of life, and sleep, pain, and other issues were there. So there are so many other studies are there. So definitely reduction, not only in opioid and other medicines also we have seen. In Israel, there was a epidemiological study in which again the questionnaire was given, and they have uh, seen that people are improving on their pain, people are improving on their quality of life when they started medical cannabis. So these studies are there to just reassure all of you. The more and more studies will reassure that this particular herb, this particular plant is working. And why we are doing this is because, again, the irony is, we all know from Ayurveda, it has been mentioned, we all know that it is working clinically. In our clinic, thousands of patients are getting benefited. But still, to the fraternity, to the global scientific community, Dr. Hemant working exhaustively with all of them, we need more and more these kind of studies and technical data to reflect the results and to convey in their knowledge. So I think that is right now from my end today. And there are several questions which we'll be taking quickly with all of you will be there. Both of you will be there, Sumit and Dr. Hemant. And over to you, Sumit, for further coordination. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Piyush. Thank you so much for your time. And obviously, a lot was shared. I guess doctors would have learned a lot from what Dr. Heyman talked about the entire, plant and its therapeutic effects, and obviously your inputs on the right way of dosages. I guess if you have some questions, we can definitely take it. I guess we talked about dosages and definitely some or the other, uh, you know, uh,
So, Dr. Hemant, there are various questions about the drug abuse and addiction around cannabis, and maybe your thought process and your experience around that, and you want to share something on this topic with our fellow
Yeah, I think
practitioners
that
today.
I was about to, like I was listening, and I kind of it's a really important and critical part, and people always kind of like wanted to hear that what's going on about that, right? So one of the best thing is that what you mentioned, Piyush, and there are so many studies are already out there from US, from Canada, globally also. And what we see in US that most of the states where it is because US some most of the states are recreationally and medically both allowed, but some states they are only medically allowed. For example, in Ohio, that we are only medically practiced, but it's not recreationally allowed yet. But from those states where it's recreationally allowed, the opioid addiction reduce up to 50 to 55%, which is kind of a big number, right? And one of the important thing when we talk about that, like, okay, yes, of course, there is a addiction is a different kind of, like stages of the addiction also, right? Somebody is low addiction, somebody is middle level addiction, is somebody is highly addicted, right? So there is always a kind of like a there's a discussion in the clinician panel that, like, of course, that is the part that we still not to figure out, that when there is somebody, the patient who is highly addicted, the brain is kind of used to with this kind of addiction in the cycle. So there, are we replacing one addictive drug to the another one, right? So in those cases, that how we deal with the things is that, of course, there are a lot of different supportive therapies to keep the patient down to that level, that where they can be helpful with cannabis-based treatment, right? And the good part and the beauty of cannabis is when we talk about, and patient always get, and clinicians also ask this question that, like, okay, what about our patients are getting addicted, right? So this is very important to keep in mind that, like, first thing is that patient need to maintain the journals. You have the clinicians, it is your responsibility to keep the patients, the how they are improving is very important. That, okay, let's say that you are treating with a patient, like you said, that, like 25 milligram, right? And it is keep going on, and after a certain time that patient is complaining with you that, hey, 25 milligram is not working, I need more. And then after some time that patient is again asking that, okay, this is not working, looks like I'm getting tolerance, and I need maybe, like a little bit more. One, this is two cycle happen, which is a clear indication to you as a clinician that it is an indicative of a addiction. Maybe patient are going in that path. So the best part is that you can sit with the patient, you can talk with the patients, and the best part of the cannabis is that the moment that you gap it, let's say that you talk with the patients and you said that, okay, we are going to gap for 3 weeks or 2 weeks, there all the receptors which are super saturated, they are all empty, and the patient can start from the zero. And when after 2 to 3 weeks, you can see that patient are going to respond with a lower dose what he was in. So that's the beauty of this treatment also. So that is kind of like a coordination between the clinician and the patient, and clinician need to aware of that, that, okay, I need to keep an eye on that, that patient is not going to be, like going in that route. Another part which is very important, that what Piyush was discussing, India is in a very critical phase where we don't have so much options of broad spectrum, isolate. We have only full spectrum. Along with that, that we are not, like have that system that where we know that, okay, this is coming from sativa, this is coming from indica. So there's a lot to do, lot to learn, right? So system need to be do there. So based on what we have, that, like as Piyush mentioned, that, the treatment regimen was one of the best thing to go with, and interaction with the many different clinicians and gathering the data, that how we are doing that, and how you are doing that, how I am doing that, how patients are responding, is very important to collect that data. Along with that, to learn that what the other countries is already so far done, so that, like, because I think that is the most important thing, is that even though that there are so many advancements worldwide globally, but India still need to do their part, because we are ethnically different, we are geographically different. So our patients in India is going to respond different with cannabis. So that means that data is also need to become out, and, like in the publication part, that how Indian subset of the patients are responding with cannabis based medication, with many different kind of subset of the products. Because slowly we are going to evolving with the many different unique products, many different advanced product, many different better product. Because, like testing is also getting better and better, manufacturing is also getting better, and the policies, like you mentioned, which is getting better and better. So we are learning, but we need to be communicated with each other. Education is one of the important part also. Research is going very fast, clinical research is moving very fast, so people need to aware of that. So I just wanted to add that thing. Thank you.
Right, right. Great, Dr. Hemant. I think that is a very nice explanation, and hope Dr. Adhika, your question got resolved. So I can see again several comments is there that it was an informative session. So dosage we have already discussed, and how to handle adverse effect, Dr. Sharma. So again, and Dr. Haleen is also asking about the adverse effect. So dry mouth, yes, it is there. Constipation. So what we have done is we have started giving a mild, sometimes laxative initially, like you can add trifla or isabgol or any other herbal laxative to them if somebody is having that. But you ask them to increase the fluids, it will be good, and it is a kind of a quickly a bit detoxification for them as well. But after some time it will not be there. So that is one thing. Abdominal distension is also there, but gradually it will reduce and will be fine. And the other thing which we need to understand is, which we got an answer in Ayurveda. So in Ayurveda we always consider Vatpit cough, and it's an Ushnavirya Oshadhi as far Ayurveda is concerned. So Ushnavirya, agar if it is Ushnavirya, it will tend to do the dryness of mouth and constipation and all. And Pitta Prakriti is also related to that, which we have discovered as per the Ayurveda theory and science of dosha is concerned. So there we got the answer of this, and we are handling this. So you can add with Shama Koshadis, and you can see the patient case to case basis. But in general, if you want to understand from the allopathic perspective or the scientific perspective, again this happens, and you have to just increase the fluids, and you have to just give them a mild laxative, and it will be fine after a few days, which we have seen in our clinical experience.
And I think it's important to start with low and slow,
Absolutely.
so that you are not facing that kind of difficulties. And even though if
Absolutely.
you're starting with a little bit higher dose also, and patient has a hard palpation, dry mouth, etc., you can just ask the patient to reduce the dose, and it's all taken care of.
Right, right. And legal certificate is not required. You have to just be a registered practitioner in India, and you can practice as far as Indian scenario is concerned. Any courses? Yes, we have a certification courses. We got stuck due to some regulatory issues, but we are now almost there to start that study material dispatch, and also you can write to us, Dr. Savita. Dr. Neelam, yes, it can work on several issues. Reversing diabetes and high BP can be a matter of discussion, but it can work in leg cramping, I can say. But yes, constipation and everything is there. Um,
Because
we can have
regarding
a
any kind of digestive issues, that endocannabinoid system play a very important role to maintain the digestive microbiome flora, and that's why that cannabis is very helpful in all these digestive issues very well, either stomach bloating or either irritable bowel syndrome, inflammatory bowel syndrome, etc. Lot of reports are out there.
right. So what I will do is, Sumit, my suggestion is, let's have a separate session on these managing the side effects or adverse effect. I think many questions are around this. So let's have another session, because we are just proceeding to 1.5 hour of this session today. And there are a couple of questions for you, Sumit, and I want to conclude this session on that note. And to all the doctors, again, thank you for participating on a very active basis. We will record all your questions for today's session as well. And quickly, I also request all of you to post your name, number, email ID if you want to connect directly to Happyhim and Sumit for samples, for placing order for your clinics and all. So please do that as well. And they have a very exhaustive knowledge bank also, which they keep on sharing with all the doctors. So you can connect that to them as well. Sumit, there are two questions quickly. One is, do you provide sample as far as this particular medicine is concerned? Second is, how the doctors can connect to you. What is the mechanism? What kind of SOPs or procedures you people are following? So please throw some light on these aspects. Thank you.
Yeah, so normally I think we do give samples to doctors free of cost. We would like to know the registration of the individual, because to ensure that the product is or the medicine is reaching to the right person. So normally we can have either one of registration certificate along with ID proof for us to have uh, as supporting document. We give out to all the doctors samples, no issue in that, without free of cost. As well as if the doctor wants to uh, include medical cannabis in an active practice, we offer the medicines at a discounted rate, and normally we have around we give them the kind of a flexibility to first have the medicines and then prescribe it, and then once the stock is uh, exhausted, we can have the payments coming up. That's not a problem. We've been very accommodating, as well as we try to ensure that doctors have active knowledge increment over a period of time. I mean, these webinars are again part of the same, and We do the other thing is that we do ask all the doctors to share the prescriptions of the patients so that we have a visibility of the medications going to whom. So 3 4 couple of thing we maintain to ensure that the distribution or the dispensing of the medicine is done rightly, and obviously right stakeholders are involved in the process. You can reach out to me on my phone number, email ID. I'll just post it here.
Just post in the private chat and we will show to the entire audience. And also, Dr. Hemant, maybe you want to share your email ID so that
Yeah.
people can connect with you for the discussions. You can also post that in the chat box so we can share that to the
I can be
fraternity.
reached on any of the numbers, and
Yeah.
mostly I'm available all the time. Uh, so we can talk about it if we want to understand the process, even the procurement, the legality, any question, confusion around it. I'm happy to clear them as per as best of my knowledge. If not, then obviously I can rope in experts to answer those questions and or, one of these webinars or any of these. So these
So
are
these are the numbers.
two phone numbers
These,
actually.
yeah,
Yeah.
these are the numbers and email ID of Sumit. So all of you can quickly reach to him on that. And we have Dr. Hemant email ID as well. Let me just post your email ID because number will be a bit challenging that you are in US. So let me quickly share the email ID of Dr. Hemant as well. So all of you can write to him as well, and he will be happy to answer your queries, and further discussion can be there. Great, Dr. Hemant and Dr. Sumit for this very informative discussion and talk today. And I can see more than 1 hour 30 minutes, and still around 200 people are watching us live. So that shows that it was a very interesting and informative session for all of us. And we will be taking it forward, and we'll be having further more sessions in future with both of you as well. So thank you again, all of you, for joining today. Have a lovely Sunday ahead and a great week, and stay safe. Virus is spreading a lot across the country and across the world, so take care of yourself and your family, and we'll see you in the next session as soon as possible. Thank you,
Thank
Sumit.
you,
Thank you,
everyone.
Dr. Hemant.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Bye. Take care.